Hey, my name is Stefan Salmatin, and today I wanted to talk about the fact that the thing that you're avoiding controls you. And now, this is a concept that I've been introduced to a while ago, but it's something that I need to remind myself of all the time. And the reason is because the thing that you're avoiding changes all the time, but the reason always stays the same. The reason is always the fact that it's uncomfortable and it's something you don't want to do because it's uncomfortable. So it's basically because it's uncomfortable. That being said, the thing that you're avoiding changes all the time. And so if a few years ago there could have been a hard conversation that you had to make with someone, then eventually, after actually confronting it and doing it for multiple times, you build up the muscle to the point where now it's not really a problem, and something that you would dread doing for about 2 weeks, now you would just do it in like one day, or even pick up the phone immediately and just call. And so the time dreading doing it is going to shorten more and more and more as you build up the muscle to actually tackle those hard things. That being said, the thing also changes all the time. And so there's basically 2 points that I want to kind of tackle with this and actually bring real world examples from my life, which actually helped me. And so the first thing is where I really started and how I even got introduced to that concept was hard conversations. And I heard about it and then I thought about it. Well, okay, what hard conversation do I need to make which is holding me back from moving forward? And I thought about it, and then I actually came to the realization that I did have that. And then I realized that for me tackling this right now is simply just going to help me train the muscle, or at least hopefully, like that's the hope that I had, is going to help me train the muscle to just do that faster in the future, which actually is what ended up happening. And so now, it's been a few years since then, and I would say I have gotten much better at it. And obviously I have this positive reinforcement of like all this liberation and freedom that you get after you actually finally confront it and do it, that now at this point it's like, well, just go and do it immediately. No matter how hard it is, how much you don't want to do it, you just go and do it because you already been reinforced for that in the past. That being said, you have those examples of those hard conversations, but then there's also the fact that the thing that you're avoiding changes all the time. And so at one point in time, it could be a hard conversation, and at another point in time, it would be maybe not a conversation, but like that paperwork that you have to file, or that risk that you have to take, or the business that you actually been wanting to start and been talking about for 2 years, but you just talk about it. You don't actually do anything. And so then you have to confront yourself of like, am I just talking? Do I like talking about it, or do I like actually doing it? And so the most recent thing that I had to confront myself of was the fact that I wanted to learn music production for a very long time, and I kept on putting it off, and then I kept on telling myself, well, once I get done with this project, once I get done with this move, I'll finally, start to get at it. And I realized that I actually never ended up starting it. And half a year has passed by and I've done literally nothing. And so I had to confront myself and sit with myself and be like, okay, you have done nothing. Why? But answer honestly. You cannot lie. And the truth was that I could not set my priorities straight. And so when I did that, I had to eventually look at it, and I was like, okay, so those hangouts with the boys on the weekends, like, are those more important to me than my goals? I was like, well, no, my goals are more important. So, okay, so then you're going to have to hurt some of those relationships in order to gain, moving towards your goal. And so that was basically the logic. That being said, it was something that it was a conversation that I kept on avoiding for a long time. And so it's actually, it controls you a ton. And, there's there's a part where it controls you. Like, for example, those conversations, they actually control you in a mental way. And so the amount of space that it takes up in your head, the amount of mental energy, compared to the amount of pain that you're going to have to go through having that conversation. And sometimes they are genuinely uncomfortable conversations. But if we compare the amount of energy versus the amount of pain you're going to have to go through, the amount of energy that it takes up in your head is always, always disproportionately larger than the amount of pain you have to go through. But then there's obviously other situations that you just keep on avoiding that change, and it's possibly the fact that, like, now you're going to have to hang out less with your friends. And it's like, now every time that they call you every weekend, you're going to be like, no, I'm working. No, I'm working. I'm working on this. And they're going to get upset. And you're going to get upset because it's like you did not want to do that because you like those people. You genuinely care for those people. But you also care about your goals. And that is something that has to be done. And so that one is, maybe in some ways it is mental, but it also is like very hands-on. It actually controls your life in a very in a very materialistic way, where you can actually feel it in a very tangible way. And so 6 months later, you see that you have no results from all this time that you could have actually been making progress. And so I would say that's a pretty tangible lack of result. And so both of them actually control you. Both instances control you a lot. And so there's definitely those conversations, but then there's also just confrontation of like your own inadequacies. And you usually know about them, but you just don't want to confront them, because then it would mean that you would have to change your life, and you would have to go through certain pain. And then you're just like, oh well, yeah, it's just a busy season right now. I can't do that now. It's like, well, if you can't do it now, you're probably never going to do it. And so that has been something that has actually pushed me forward. The biggest thing is the conversations. I mean, that by far has been probably the biggest, professionally, what pushed me forward. Having those hard conversations, no doubt, that was the biggest thing. And then obviously something that I realized later, and recently, which was like, okay, like, and it was basically the fact that there's the conversations, but then there's different things that you're going to avoid, and they might be in a different category, and they will affect your life just as much, and you will stagnate just as much. And so just going through that, the pain of actually going through them is always significantly less than the amount of mental space and amount of pain that you're going to get from lack of progress. So that pain is always less, and has proven to me time and time again, it has always been the right decision to just confront yourself and then go after the goals. And so if you find that helpful, if you have any sort of conversations that you need to make, any sort of things that you need to confront with yourself, I think it's worth doing, even if it's something you don't want to do.